Kyrgyzstan is betting big on Western capital. However, is it too little and too late for this Central Asian nation, which has grappled with two major events within the last few decades that have led to the government being toppled? And is Kyrgyzstan able to continue to be stable? Well, my friends, if you watch until the end, I will be explaining just that. There is the potential that Kyrgyzstan may just be the next stable Central Asian nation. Now, when we get into what makes Central Asia so unique, is that it was one of the last regions in the former USSR to open up. Parts of Central Asia are still deemed to be off limits. This is places like Turkmenistan and parts of the Pamir Highway. As time goes on, there is more opening up. However, this is what you'd call as close to the most pure frontier market play that you can get in the modern day. Now, barring exceptions like Afghanistan, which is also in Central Asia, or other authoritarian places where draconian laws and international pressure, even from allies, keeps them sanctioned, Central Asian region is more or less functional from a legal standpoint. And Kyrgyzstan is no different. Kyrgyzstan has some fairly major detractors. And especially if you are used to Western freedom of speech and Western direct challenge to authority, Kyrgyzstan is likely not for you. However, if you're looking for a place that has potential in the near future, that is moving in a westward direction, but isn't solidified within the West, I think that realistically Kyrgyzstan is very interesting from that perspective. I'm here in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan today, and I can tell you, as someone who spends time here in Central Asia, and who is working to make Central Asia his home, the amount of connectedness within a very short period of time is crazy. Especially places like Tashkent, where the potential for you to be given a route directly to your country is fairly high. And especially with the tourism rollout. You see, for a long time, these places were a part of the Greater Silk Road. So, they are no strangers to the business acumen of what people are saying. They are actually used to business, and especially places like Uzbekistan. And of course, I am looking at moving to. What I see increasingly in these countries is their willingness to be in the developing space and their willingness to court Western capital. Unlike what the narrative is about Central Asia, it isn't the Russian backwaters. And in fact, quite the opposite. Russia has been actively divesting in the interests of Central Asia. You may have heard, after sanctions, one of the largest Russian telecommunications operators that actually is Swedish by origin, Beeline, was sold off in Russian holdings because they had to choose Beeline in Russia or Kyivstar in Kyiv and Ukraine more broadly. The government is actively courting American capital and European capital. But it goes against the narrative that the US is seen as bad. It isn't seen as bad in the region. And this is despite Central Asia having some of the most nostalgia in the former USSR for the USSR. They love the Soviet Union, but they also understand pragmatically that they're not getting back the Soviet Union, and that aligning themselves with the United States, aligning themselves with Western capital, will benefit them. And additionally, Kyrgyzstan has openly said in 2023 that they would be open to hosting an American military base. And as someone who understands exactly what that means on the ground, it means they're pushing very, very hard to open up to particularly Western capital. And they feel that Western capital represents capital with the least strings attached. And so, if you are a person that is disaffected with the West, if you are a person that is lacking in your mentality towards where the West is going, Central Asia may represent a soft landing. Even though they do not speak English in the vast majority of cases in a place like Kyrgyzstan, it's getting better, however they do not. There's a sense that Americans are welcome. There's a sense that as time goes on, that people are okay with Americans living here and investing here. And so, if you're looking for a place that is untouched by a lot of investors, that is untouched by the world, and that wants your capital, I would love to facilitate your move to a Central Asian country. Of course, to do that, you can fill out the Google Forms link in the description down below. It takes a few seconds, and you get a sovereign one-pager quoted directly for you and your situation. If you like this video, feel free to like it. If you really like this video, feel free to share it with your friends. If you are looking for a way to join me on this journey of internationalization, globalization, feel free to subscribe. This has been the Traveling Report, signing off.